Welcome to Real Money with Lisa Chastain. Lisa Chastain is a best-selling author and money coach known for her work in money mindset and financial transformation. Her approach focuses on the truth that money is emotional before it's mathematical, and that lasting financial freedom begins with changing the way we think, feel, and behave with money. On this show, Lisa explores the psychology of wealth, abundance mindset, financial literacy, and the deeper beliefs that shape everything from debt and income to entrepreneurship, side hustles, and building multiple income streams. If you're ready to shift your relationship with money and step into a stronger wealth mindset, you're in the right place. Here's your host, Lisa Chastain. Welcome to Real Money with Lisa Chastain.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Money with Lisa Chastain. I'm your host, Lisa Chastain, and today we're going to have an open, honest, real conversation about what it's like for me personally to be navigating my own faith as I navigate business, parenthood, and all the things that our world is up to right now and the big transitions that are coming our way as women. And also I have my special guest, Kris Lowe. She's a licensed therapist here in Las Vegas. I've had some amazing conversations with Kris. I just adore her. And she works specifically with Christian women who are high achievers navigating success, family life, business, all the things. And for the first time ever in Real Money, we're having an open, honest conversation about what it's like to walk our journey of faith. I'm taking a risk on this one. Don't worry, we're not here to preach to you, but I hope that you'll be able to uncover something for yourself and your relationship with God as we have this open, honest, and vulnerable conversation. Let's get it started. For whatever reason, I'm sure this is just God calling me to take a risk because I've never actually had a conversation about faith on the podcast. And as Christian women, we've had some pretty soulful conversations about our faith and using God to guide us. And so to my audience today, be open to this conversation. And my question for you as you're listening today is, what does God mean to you? And in what way is God working in your life and calling you forward? As a Christian woman for myself, and then I know, Kris, you and I are going to just dig into this and talk about this, is I believe that as a follower of Jesus, I'm being called to love as Jesus has loved and as he's shown us love, and that everyone is worthy of love and forgiveness. I'm still wrestling with the journey of being a woman walking in faith, of knowing my calling. I just had this conversation with my best friend on the way to the office this morning of like, are we fulfilling our purpose? Are we living the work and the way that God has called us to? And how do we know? And so, Kris, let's just open it up. How are you wrestling with your journey of faith today?
I'm very, very...
I know, loaded question.
I love that. And it's a really good question because I think that wrestling is a great word to use. There is a space where, you think you're doing the things that he wants you to do. You think you are engaging in a way that is reflective of him. And I'm still a work in progress, and still often experience the difficulty of the emotional distress that I'm often under, and trying to navigate the space of my emotions and my faith is often a difficult space to be in. But I am still on the journey. I'm also still working to be more Christ-like. I'm still working to be a living, breathing reflection of who he has been to me. And being loving, not just to other people, but to myself, is a very, very big part of that journey, is really learning how to engage from a perspective of God's love, not just for myself, but for other people as well.
Man, our world is so sensitive to this topic right now. It's so sensitive to the conversation of God and Christianity versus other religions, and it's being weaponized and politicized. And to me, my journey, my walk with God right now is a journey of love and really wanting to emulate the love that Jesus showed for us. In what ways is that showing up for you right now in the world today?
Ooh, I love that. I think it shows up for me specifically in the way that I trust him. Trust is a very big question mark for me right now. And not because I don't want to, not because I don't think that I trust him, but because oftentimes, considering the state of the world, not just our country, but just the things that are happening politically, spiritually, internationally, you find yourself getting caught up in the day to day of what's actually happening in front of you. And
Yeah.
it's funny. I read a scripture this morning that talked about, the things that you're seeing they're temporary. Do not focus on the things that you can see, but you need to be focusing on what's unseen. And so trying to remember that what's in front of me is temporal is it's a day-to-day
It's
struggle. It's a
hard. Yeah.
yes, I'm wrestling it every day. It's very difficult to continue to be encouraged when there is so much calamity happening in the world and
Yeah.
so being able to be rooted and trusting him. Really, Proverbs, I think it's 3:4, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not onto your own understanding. That is one of my favorite scriptures right now because I don't need to rest and lean into and settle into what I know to be true. I need to be able to trust and know that he's got me. And no matter what it looks like out here, no matter how because it's really windy out there right now, no matter how windy it is, he's still going to be the constant. He never changes. He doesn't become moved by the constant waves of the weather or the shifts in the weather that we experience.
Yeah, he doesn't. You're working with clients actively, and you're on a mission to work with women business owners, women who are facing burnout. You have such a calming, peaceful, living presence. I can imagine a client, whether they're with you virtually or not, as soon as they get into your space, they can just for a moment in their day breathe and slow down. What challenges? I know it because that's how I feel when I'm in your space. What are the things that women, business owners, entrepreneurs, high achievers, what are some of the challenges they're coming to you with right now?
Yeah. I think without even realizing it, they are coming to me with different things. I'm noticing a pattern of overcompensation and overfunctioning. That's a very, very common thing that we see in high achieving women. If you think about things in a terms of like a physical injury, a lot of times if you hurt your right ankle, you might find that you're putting more weight on the left leg just naturally. You're not to. It's just happening because we're overcompensating. And that leg isn't necessarily meant to carry and sustain that weight for an extended amount of time, but it does it because it's just doing what it needs to do. And that's often what can happen to us on a psychological standpoint. Specifically for high achieving women, we might find that we're overcompensating in various different ways, whether it's for the internal stress we're experiencing, whether it's for the expectations we ourselves are placing on us, whether it's thoughts of perfectionism. Those things influence us and they show up in our day to day. And so those are a lot of the concerns that I'm often seeing. It's really just important to remember that although on the outside, things can look like we're functioning great, we're functioning perfectly, on the inside, we're often overburdened, we're weighed down with all of the things that we are carrying that we weren't meant to carry for such a long period of time. And so
what are some of those things?
Some of those things are often the responsibility of other people. We're often emotionally over functioning for other people. We're often thinking for other people, planning, strategizing around what other people might be doing or what they're not doing. And so we're taking on a lot more to be able to manage and just be in a space of like, I'm okay, everything is taken care of. And
yeah, that sounds like to me like a pattern of codependency. Is that what it is?
Yeah, yes, there's that too. There's layers. And I don't like to say it in a way that makes it sound like it's just this, because there are many factors that lead to the state of being overwhelmed, which high achieving women are often overwhelmed and burned out and just tired. And it makes sense.
Just tired.
We are carrying a lot that we weren't necessarily meant to. Like I said, carrying the invisible load oftentimes, specifically if you're a mom. The social implications that come in certain settings, the certain instances as being a woman in a male-dominated business, those sorts of things are weighty. And when we're carrying that and we experience fatigue, what we often think is, well, I'm weak or I'm not able to, this is a failure. And it's not necessarily a sign of failure. It's a signal that you are carrying more than you were meant to carry. And we're not necessarily having adequate support, boundaries, or even restorative practices.
That's a lot to unpack right there.
It is a lot.
Man. All right. So let's start here. Perfectionism. Okay. We're going to talk about perfectionism right after this break. Hey, stop blaming yourself about the choices you're making with money. Your money patterns aren't random. Take the money personality test and find out who you truly are. Link is in the show notes. Okay, we're back. Perfectionism. As a Christian woman for so long, so my background story is I was born and raised in a Christian household, Southern Baptist household. My dad's Southern Baptist. He was raised in the South. He moved here from Atlanta, Georgia. And Southern Baptists have a lot of, and I don't know how they've changed over the years because I stopped going to church when I was 12 or 13. But at that time, it felt like you had to do things the right way all the time. And religion for me as a young girl was a lot of, I had to be perfect in the eyes of Jesus. Now, fast forward, I'm 46. That is definitely not the way that I view Christianity and life and relationship with God. It's really actually the opposite, is that it's all about the imperfect and being in the struggle of our relationship with God, and that we don't have to be perfect. And actually God loves us more because we aren't perfect, because the only perfect person is God and Jesus, right? So like all the things, I'm overanalyzing this, but there's so much pressure in the Christian community of this like conversation that just because we're Christian, that we have to be perfect and we have to be perfect wives, we have to be perfect siblings, we have to be perfect business owners. And if we're not doing it right. Are you hearing that? Is that coming up in conversation with your clients?
Yes, absolutely. And it doesn't always come up in that exact wording, but there is this ongoing striving to be a level of perfect that is just not for ourselves, for any of us, and myself included. I do find myself in the race of trying to do everything in a specific way, or just perfectly, without allowing the space for me to allow God to swoop in. The perfectionism, the more that we are engaging in that practice of trying to be all and everything to everyone in the best way, we're not allowing the space for God's grace to speak, to live, to breathe in that gap where we can't handle all of the things. We weren't meant, and just as I was saying a while ago, in terms of overcompensating, we weren't meant to carry certain things. We weren't meant to be all and everything to everyone. And so being able to recognize, one, it's okay to not have it. It's okay to not be able to do it. It's okay to say, I'm tapped out, or that isn't for me, because everything isn't for everyone. And being able to recognize that is a part of the journey to loving other people well and loving yourselves well. And so I think that a part of this is being able to allow yourself the space of saying, I don't know. I
don't know.
I don't know. I don't have it. I don't have the answer. I can't do it. I'm not, because we really are dependent on God. We really are dependent. And the more that we can realize that and allow ourselves to be in that child-father like relationship, the more we can release the pressure of being perfect, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, because the journey of perfectionism for me is what broke me. I was so scared that if people knew all the things behind the scenes that weren't working for me, that my marriage was falling apart, that my finances were a mess, that my business wasn't going the way that I thought it wanted to go. But I was so busy building this protection around me and this essence. This was over a decade ago when it all came to a head. I ended up in a situation in my life where it had all fallen apart. It had all broken away, which is ultimately how I found my way back to church and how I found my way back to God, because I was like, I am tapped out.
Yes.
I am. And it was the first time in my life that I actually found myself in an office with a therapist too, because I was like, all right, what I've been doing is not working. I'm burned out. I'm stressed out. I'm sad. Yeah. I've been giving myself away to all of these people for so long. And it felt like everything shattered around me and came crashing down And then it was just me and God. I was like, now what do I do? But I think what I'm hearing you say is that you have to let that quiet in, settle in to even allow that connection and that guidance, because you're right. Like, we're just humans. What are we capable of? Well, nothing really, unless we have God's provision. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. And I like the way that you phrased it and the way that you said it. And honestly, I think that that's the biggest thing that we need to be able to remember, is that we do things because God allows us to. He allows us these wonderful bodies, and these bodies that contain all of these different emotional experiences. And those emotions are not to be feared. They are a part of our human experience. They are indicators, signals. The things, a part of what we want to be doing in that space is starting to notice that you're the pressure to strive. Notice that why you're doing what you're doing, being able to question. And in that space, be still so that you can actually hear the answer, the response. We're often so busy, we're often moving and striving so much to attain that level of perfectionism or other things that we're doing, engaging in, that we're not being still enough to guide us. We're trying to do the guiding. We're trying to do the planning. We're trying to exalt ourselves in different ways rather than being able to exalt him. And I think when you were speaking, a part of what I heard is you kind of get to this space where you come to the end of yourself and you start to recognize.
That's exactly it.
And you start to acknowledge and admit the truth of where you are. And I think that there's so much of us trying to cover up who we really are authentically, that we're hiding ourselves not just from the world, but we're hiding ourselves from us and from God. We're not even being truthful about where we are. And until we can acknowledge the emotion, acknowledge the sadness, acknowledge where we are, we'll continue to be in this race, this striving space to get to a certain level of perfectionism that really doesn't exist for us.
That's right. Does the pressure to be the strong one show up differently in women who are also deeply committed to our faith?
Yes. But I believe that there is a level of, I want to say, pride that we can engage in when it comes to that. We often are not able to acknowledge just the reality and the truth of where we are. We often are in this space of, I would say, not admitting. And there is this ongoing battle that we have with ourselves internally to present in a certain way, to present a specific image, to present a certain strength and a certain quality that we have. And a part of that, I think, looks like being able to handle or carry a lot, being able to do certain things that almost like a yes, I got it, sure, without really taking into account what's true for you. Can you handle that? Does God want you to handle that? Did you pause long enough to notice if this is in alignment with what his will is for your life? Or are you just going because of the notion or the pretense or the belief that I have to be the strong one? I do think.
Where does that come from?
Well, a lot of that can come from core beliefs. It can come from our background, our upbringing. It also can come from the relationship that we actually have with our parents, right? And so how we project onto God, even how we project onto other people about those primary relationships that we have. But a lot of that is established from our core beliefs, who we saw. How did we see strength modeled as we grew up? What did our mothers do? Or what didn't they do? Those are different things that we have absorbed throughout our lifetimes. And they are part of the storyline that we replay back to ourselves. This is what strength looks like. This is what it takes to be a strong woman. This is what I want strong to be. And strong or strength doesn't always look like admitting that I can't to us, the way that we perceive it.
A lot of strong women doing some really strong things right now.
Yeah. And we are strong. We are strong. But I think that looking at strength from a expansive perspective is helpful. Strength does not have to look like what the world says strength is. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be silent. Strength can be flexible. God is flexible. his strength is amazing. And the way that he shows us his strength shows up differently in different spaces. And I think the more flexibility we can allow with how we view strength, the more it can allow us to take a space of humility rather than being prideful with where we have to be in terms of how people view us.
I think you bring up a great point, because I have so many women in my world and too who are the dreamer money personality. And so I have the 5 money personalities. The dreamer money personality is the one that thinks big and dreams big. And then we wrap success into that. And in the external ego, in the ego world, the non-soul world, the notion of success. And Wayne Dyer talks about this a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with Wayne Dyer's work, but I just absolutely love him. He talks about the ego and the soul. But anyway, in the ego world, the non-soul world, we're wrapped up in this idea and notion of what success really is and what it looks like and it feels like. And so many of us connect that directly to money. So then therefore, if money is our way to success, then we have to have money and lots and lots and lots and lots of money to be successful. But in that same breath, what you just said was so important, is that the people who value success, or we want to achieve success, our Achilles heel is vulnerability. And so we put on this mask of being strong because being vulnerable looks or feels weak. But in the eyes of God, it's actually the vulnerability that brings us closer to our truest selves, yes, which has nothing to do with the ultimate, like that kind of success. Or, you don't have to have $1 billion to be loved. You don't have to have $1 million to be loved, because you're already loved. But we forget that and we get off track. How do we get back on track?
I love that question. I do. I think that a part of the way that we get back on track is by meeting ourselves where we are. What I mean by
that sounds scary. I don't want to do that.
And that's honestly what gets us into a lot of difficulty, is the perception of what that process is going to look and feel like, right? It's like, I do not want to do that. That does not sound exciting. No. It's not something that is appealing to us, but it's where the growth happens. It's where the difference is made. And so starting to reflect on what matters to you, where your values lie, is really important there. Being able to clarify what's important. And I think that being flexible around that is very, very important, because where you are in your youth is a lot different than where you are in your mid-20s versus your 30s and 40s. And you want to be flexible to allow what is important to you to shift. When I was younger, I was a big paper chaser. Money was a very big deal to me, and it very much so dictated what I thought success meant. But as I have grown and as I have, I would say, gotten closer in my walk with God, and I have become more authentic to who I am, I do recognize that is where the bread and butter is. That's where the beauty of who you really are lies. That is the person that God created you to be. He didn't create us to be a spirit being who was fearful, who was walking around full of various emotional experiences and different experiences. So the more that we can start to acknowledge where we truly are by asking, what matters? What matters to me? What really truly matters to me? That's going to help reconnect you with your values. It's going to help to navigate the space of overwhelm or confusion or frustration that we might often experience in the space of trying to create our own definition of success or adhere to the world's definition of success. And so I think a lot of it is really starting with clarifying what matters most to you, where your values lie, and also the way that you want to show up in those different valued life areas. That's really, really important to helping you navigate. It's like the golden compass. Your values can be a great compass to help you navigate life's difficulties, including the different definitions of success and strength and just different terminology that we use all the time. It really helps us to stand firm on what's important to us.
You're speaking my language, Kris. This is what the podcast is all about, is values-based living instead of following gurus who don't really care about you at the end of the day. But you do care about your clients, and we're going to talk about ways that you're helping them real time right after the break.
Pause.
If you're successful on paper, but still don't feel as powerful as you know you can be with money, the Wealth Within is where we change all of that. Link is in the show notes. Okay, we're back from the break. This is so good, Kris. This is so good. This is exactly why I wanted to have you on the show. This is so atypical of a money conversation on a money podcast. And I'm sure it's pushing some of you up against the edges, having these conversations about God. I know so many of you are wrestling in your own relationship about religion in general right now, because it's like on fire politically. And there are lots of conversations about religion right now and what it means and what it doesn't mean. But ultimately, let's bring it full circle, because what I'm hearing you say over and over and over and over again is that when it comes to our relationship with ourselves, to connect with God, it just comes back to being real, being open, being honest with yourself, and being connected to your values. And when we really have the courage as women specifically to do that, does it not always come back to love? And does it not always come back to our relationship with God and our purpose for being on this planet?
Yeah. It's so important. I think one thing that I like to make sure that I'm saying is, whatever your relationship is with God, know that He is love regardless. He does not look at you with disdain or anything of that nature. He looks at you with love. He loves everyone. When He sent His Son here for everyone, not for just a few. And that's really important, because I think that the way that we perceive that relationship and His nature, our actions hinge on that. And so the more that we can engage and connect with our true authentic self, the more that we are not engaging with the versions of ourselves that have been impacted by life's experiences and challenges. We are able to really acknowledge what those challenges, those situations have meant to us and how they've caused us to feel. The more that we can be truthful about that with ourselves, the more that we can be truthful about that with God and surrender those things to Him. Our emotions feel difficult sometimes to handle. They can be very, very big. And they're not things to be fearful of. We don't want to get into a space of continuous avoidance of certain emotions and then potentially train our brains to recognize emotions as threats. They're not threats. They are signals to what is happening to us and what is happening in front of us and for us. And the more that we can be still, the more that we can acknowledge those experiences and that we can lean into them, the more that we are capable of surrendering those moments, those feelings, those situations to God and letting Him handle it. There is such a freedom in being able to let somebody else handle your lightweight. There is such a great feeling that comes along with knowing that somebody else has your back, even if you don't fully see all of the ways that they have your back. And so the more that we can acknowledge those moments and be truthful with ourselves, the more it does allow us to connect with God. And it really allows us to let Him steer our pathways rather than us trying to get back onto that race or into that striving space. And just taking the steering wheel for ourselves.
I know. Yeah. It's the masculine versus the feminine in some ways, like go do, go push, go, keep working harder versus surrendering. And that's exactly where I was going to take this conversation anyway, because that is where I struggle the most and also where I find the most amount of freedom. So perfect example. I've been on my entrepreneurial journey for over a decade. How long have you been on yours?
5 years now.
Years. Okay. So it doesn't, even though like certain things get easier, the walk with God and the trust and the surrender, still something that I work on every single day, where like I was just having this conversation with my best friend, Gail, shout out Gail, on the way here. She and I are both in our walk of faith. And it's every single day me waking up and going, are you sure? Are you sure? The what was planted in my heart over, years and years and years ago, I've been pursuing.
Yeah.
And it's not been perfect. It's not been easy. Some days I just like, I don't even want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love what I do. I love being on this podcast with you. I love all the work that I do with my clients, but some days I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? This does not make sense. Why don't I just go get a job and play it safe, you know?
Yeah.
And
I
it's
do.
me in conversations with me and me in conversations with God of like, what the fuck am I doing right now?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And so the surrender and letting go, also on the flip side of that, and I'd love for you to chime in on this, is on the flip side of that is me just going, I'm just going to give this to God today. Like my child, I'm going to give my teenage son to God today. I do not have the capacity.
Yes.
And then I'm able to rest and slow down and like breathe and just take a step.
Yeah.
How do you handle all of the pressures? You've got kids, you've got your business, you've got your husband.
Well, I will.
That was a big sigh.
It was, because what you said is absolutely true. It's real time for me. It's real time, actively, proactively working on surrendering and trusting, not picking it back up. That's a part of my problem is I say, oh, here you go. Like, I'm done with this, God. Like, I need you to take it over. And then before you know it, I'm over here problem solving and like trying to figure it out again. And I'm worried about it or what have you. And so it is a real time thing for me. And a part of what I do is I absolutely have my practices. I see my own therapist and I love her. She's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely talk about things with different friends. That's a part of me taking care of myself, not holding everything into myself, because those conversations between me, myself, and myself, they don't go the greatest. They don't go all the time. And so even when I try to bring God into those conversations, it's a lot of me like, he didn't say that. No, he didn't say that. We're going to do it. So a lot of it is me being able to get outside of my mindset and get into somebody else's. So talking to other people, engaging with other people, the people that I do life with and that I really trust to be able to support me in different sensitive or difficult spaces. Big deal. It is a very big deal for me to take care of myself in a multidimensional way. I really try to make sure that I am taking care of myself spiritually. I try to take care of myself physically, whether that means that I am drinking water or that I am, because water is a thing for me, staying hydrated is a really big intentional practice for me. You know, I really try to just take care of myself. These are some of the ways that I proactively manage myself so that I can continue to reflect on what's important, reflect on what matters. And really what matters to me is my relationship with God. I do want to be obedient. And a part of my obedience is my willingness to surrender certain things. And a lot of times, if I'm being honest, I'm not always willing to surrender certain things. There are certain things that I am still proactively wanting to control and manage. And this is why at the beginning of our conversation, I mentioned I really am working on trying to trust him with my whole heart and lean not into my own understanding. Because the more that I'm resting on what I see and what I understand to be true, the more I'm picking it back up. And it really impacts my ability to surrender. So it is a ongoing, day-to-day, consistent practice of checking in with myself, consistent practice of checking in with him, consistent practice of asking why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because if I'm doing it for me or for the love of man or for any other reason than what God has asked me to do, then I need to question that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think we all do. Like, who are we? Who are we? All right, last couple of questions. This is a loaded one, but I would love your thoughts because I'm sure someone that is listening to this right now has the same question. How do you help someone differentiate between healthy surrender and emotional avoidance disguised as faith?
That's a good question. I think I would start with what avoidance looks like, right? Avoidance is going to be you're engaging in things that provide you temporary relief. And so it could like things like, I really need to have this conversation with my husband. I don't want to. I'm going to, you know what? Let me go see what my kid is doing. Let me go check on the dishes. Let me clean up a little bit. Let me take the dogs for a walk. So I might start engaging in other things that look productive or look healthy enough, but I'm actually avoiding something that is very, very difficult for me. So what I would encourage people to do oftentimes is to notice, is there a difficult feeling that you are pushing back from or you're resisting? That's going to help you recognize if you are avoiding. If you are surrendering in a healthy way, you are acknowledging your emotions. You're not resisting them. You're not fighting them. You're not trying to suppress them or get rid of them. You're not cultivating a life that is founded on, how do I get rid of this feeling? You are cultivating a life that is built on, how do I still show up as the person that God has asked me to be, even though I feel so uncomfortable right now, even though I really don't want to have this conversation, or I really don't want to talk to this supervisor, or I really don't want to vent. Even though I have this really difficult feeling, how do I still show up and be present and do what he's asked me to do? And if you're avoiding, you're going to find yourself not doing the thing. You're going to find yourself backing out of it. If you are doing what's called healthy surrender, if you're engaging in healthy surrender, then you're acknowledging where you are. There's no resistance towards it. We're actively making space for that emotional experience and talking to God about it. I'm not acting like it's the elephant in the room. I'm proactively.
Do you want to know how I do it?
Tell me.
I'm telling on myself. I will, and I know other people do this too. I'm telling on you too. Maybe not you, Kris, but other people. My avoidance sounds a lot like, let me just give this to God. That's not right. You know what? I don't want to deal with this right now. I'm just going to avoid it. And I'm just going to give it to God.
Yeah.
But then I'm never going to come back around to it.
I love that you said that.
That's how I avoid.
I love that you said that. And I've done that. I absolutely have done that. There are things that I don't want to look at. I don't feel like it. I'm tired of it. I mean, I've been thinking a lot. I've been problem solving. I've already done all of the problem solving on it. I'll just give it to God. I don't even want to be bothered with it. I'm praying on it. And the avoidance of it is still like not looking at it. I reference it in terms of, I just can't look at it. It's like those things that you want to, I just can't. I won't look at it. And the more you are not looking at it, the more you are engaging in avoidance. You can put a bow on it. You can say that you are talking to God about it. If you're not coming back to it, if you're not allowing him to meet you in the middle, if you're not allowing him to meet you in the discomfort, there's likely a level of avoidance happening. And you can very quickly and easily do that by surrendering it to God, by giving it to him before you have sat with it. If you haven't sat with it, then you don't know about it. You haven't looked at it. You haven't explored it. You haven't allowed the heaviness of the situation or the gravity of whatever is occurring to really sit with you so that you can give it, so that you can recognize, I can't deal with this.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. You bring up such a good example. And side note really quick, what you're speaking into brings me back to a time in my life where I was going through my divorce. I was not legally divorced yet. This is years and years and years ago. Not legally divorced yet, but I had a rebound. This is like, I was not going to church. I was not connected to God. I was super lost. I was super angry, super frustrated, like just trying to figure stuff out. I was ashamed that I was getting a divorce, like all the things. I was not talking to anybody. I definitely wasn't going to God about this. And in sitting with it and being with it, I found out I was pregnant in my rebound relationship. So I had a rebound relationship, not telling anybody, hiding it, not divorced yet, in a rebound relationship, found out I was pregnant. And I already had Connor, who is at that time, he was like 8. And I was like, what am I doing with my life right now? And I called Gail. She's the one that invited me to church. So I'm putting these pieces together for those of you who are like in a mess of your life right now, whether it's financially, we're going to close the show out with this, I was in a mess and I was not slowing down. I was not paying attention. I was definitely overwhelmed. I definitely needed Kris as my therapist at that time in my life, but I wasn't reaching up my hand and asking for help. And I had all this feedback around me that like things were not going my way, which God has a way of doing this, by the way, in our lives, of like throwing the storm our way to like wake us up. I believe that's what was happening. So I'm pregnant and I'm just beside myself. Like there's no way I can have a kid right now. So I called my best friend Gail and I was in my car And this is what she said, Kris. She said, friend, you need to sit with this. You need to be with this. You need to sit in your dirty diaper right now. There is nothing you can do. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, Kris, is you have to sit with it.
Yeah.
Get quiet. Stop trying to do your way out of whatever you're in. And that's the opening.
Yeah.
That's the opportunity, the surrender to get quiet and realize that you can't do this on your own. And you were never meant to do it on your own. And here we are, a coach and a therapist who help people and support people, right? But we both have a strong relationship in our faith. And as many tools as we could give on this podcast, and as many to-dos, journaling, all the things that we would typically say, hey, work through this. I'm taking a risk on my podcast today by sharing with my audience, hey, at the end of the day, there's God in the equation too.
Yeah. Listen.
What is it? I know that was a lot to unload on you. What do you want to make sure our audience hears as we close out this conversation today?
I think you actually summarized it really well. Pause. We need to observe, breathe. Just do that. Stop, observe, and breathe. We go through so many different things on a day-to-day basis. We're not actively stopping and just sitting for a moment and noticing what's happened, checking in with ourselves. So we need to stop, observe, and breathe. That's your moment to check in. That's your moment to see how the day's been. How's the week been? How's 2026 starting out for us so far? Where are we? We're not always checking in with ourselves. We're just allowing life to drive us around rather than just pausing. Hey, where are we going? Are we actually headed where I wanted to go? No, we're not. Or yes, we are. The point is to pause. We need to pause. And thank God for Gail, okay? Because that was a great timely word, and her being able to say to you, you got to sit in it. And sometimes you just got to sit in it. You have to sit in it. You have to allow yourself to be in that spot. And I promise, if you let go of the reins of trying to have control, he will meet you in the middle of it, of that dirty diaper, the dirty diaper.
Yeah, it's not fun. I know. All right. So give us some steps out of it then. So we sit with it, we wrestle with it, and then what?
And then from there, you practically start by praying, right? You pray, you talk to God, you tell him what you're really feeling. Let's start there. One of the things that you said is that you were angry, you were mad, you were upset. Tell him. He knows, and he's not intimidated by your emotions. We're more intimidated by our emotions than he is. And so talk about it, express it, journal it. The point is for you to be able to process it so you can even talk to him about it and surrender it to him. Those are the practical steps that you want to take. You can start by talking about it. Talk about it with a trusted friend or support, like a Gail. If you have a therapist in your corner, you can explore these things with your therapist. If you have a support group, these are great places to go to or to turn to if you are in a church family or you have a church home. These are great places to be able to talk through those things. If you don't have adequate connections or connections to those types of supports, journal. Journaling is a really great way of getting through and processing through your thoughts and your feelings. This is not like trying to describe your whole life. This is really just talking about where you are, what's happening for you. The point is for you to be able to process. It's for you to be able to think about what's happening and to think about how you feel about it. Until you know any of that information, you don't have a lot to go on. You're just kind of moving. And so those are the practical first steps that I would take or to suggest to anyone in trying to get out of that space. Let's start by processing who you are. And then once you have processed it, let's sit in it a bit without fighting it. We're not going to run from it. We're just going to breathe into it and allow it to be there with us. And God will meet you and take over.
I love it. I love it. I believe that. I've seen it in my life. I know you have too. Thank you for taking a stand for Christian women. Thank you for taking a stand for women. And I know you're doing great work in your practice. Where can people find you?
You can find me at intentionalfocusnv.com. That's my website. Or you can find me on Instagram, Kris Lowe, LCSW.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you. You are amazing.
So are you.